On today's episode of Watch Chair Go, this rock bouncer has been abandoned for years. Can we make it run again? What is going on, guys? I am Watch Chair Go, and today I am here with Josh's rock bouncer that sat for years and then came here and then sat for another year over in the other building. And it really needs to move because it's a literal nightmare to move this thing with no engine. So we've moved it around once or twice using the forklift, and let me tell you, it's not light and it does not like to be moved via forklift. It's actually a huge ordeal, and most of it's because there's no power steering. It's almost impossible to turn the front end. So let's talk about this thing. It's a Jeep CJ-5, or was a Jeep CJ-5, with a complete custom tube chassis. So you can see it starts with the big old nose up front, comes down to this massive tube chassis here. It's got a Summit Racing 383 small block in there. So that thing is literally brand new. It has a little bit of runtime on it and nothing else. Brand new. You can see we've got hydro boost there on the master cylinder. Crazy hydraulic power steering, as a rock bouncer should. And you can see here, let's see, the exhaust comes down and into the chassis, into the tube chassis itself. Here in the back, you can see it comes back out of the square tubing and then up to these mufflers and out the back through these two tips. It's on 40-inch Super Swampers. These are 39.5s. And they look super cool. Huge solid axle, Fox nitrogen shocks that have been aired all the way out. Unfortunately, we don't actually have a way to air them back up. I think the rears might be extended to where they're supposed to be, but we need to find out. Those nitrogen shocks are supposed to run about 300 PSI. Crazy suspension here, tons of travel. This thing should go about anywhere. It has some fuel injection on it that we are not a fan of. I don't think anyone's a fan of. Fuel cell out back, and gigantic front axle, big solid axle there, and there's all that hydraulic power steering, huge Warren winch, which is always cool. Let's open up the hood on this truck. So luckily you can climb up on the tire to get in here. You can see the hood's been back for a long time, rubbing on the windshield, so the seal catches it there. I don't think there's a battery in it right now. We got a aftermarket intake, huge air cleaner, HEI distributor, the very fancy PSC power steering hanging out in there. There's the hydraulic steering module there that feeds this huge hydraulic system on the front end. And it's a dual battery setup, and this battery runs the engine and the truck. Here's an air compressor that's currently not hooked up to anything, but trail air would be super cool to have on here. And then of course there's the second battery down there for the winch power. We don't have the controller for the winch, so we can't actually run it. And of course that battery is very dead. Man, that winch has an 8000, X8000i. So that's pretty sweet. And today we're gonna try to make this thing run again. Corbo seats inside, Simpson 4-point harnesses. It is a very, very good setup. It even has the toe pull there for the accelerator, so you can pull back off of it. You have like positive control over the throttle with your foot. First step, like I mentioned, dual battery. We need to put a battery in this thing so that we can get it to crank. And then the second step is gonna be trying to get onto the power ejection 3. We think that unit's trash, but I have the laptop here, so hopefully we can hook up to it. And if we can't talk to the thing, we've got a whole nother one and we'll swap it out. And if that doesn't fix it, I guess this thing needs a Holley Sniper and we put it back away for a while. And yes, it does need a Holley Sniper. Obviously that's the correct answer, but that one also costs money, and we have two power ejection units here. The old one from the 33 that got a sniper, and of course the one that's on this truck. Okay, first of all, this is the ground. It runs through a cutoff switch that's inside and then straight back down to the block. So obviously it should be identified as such. So we're gonna make that simple for anyone that has to work on this in the future. So let's just turn this cable black. Now we can toss a battery up in here. Man, the wiring on this thing is wild. Absolutely wild. I don't even know what, do these run to this? It does appear they do. This does appear to be the air compressor. So let's get those out of the way, get this stuff out of the way, put the battery in here. Here's what we all really want to see. Does this ARB compressor work? Nothing. Well, come on, that's not cool. These wires run straight to this. Well, the compressor not starting was a bad sign, so let's see if anything works. Oh yeah, there's fuel pump. Fuel pump loaded up. Clutch. All right, let's get this laptop out, hook it up, and see if we can talk to fuel injection. This must have been what tuning in the 60s was like, firing up the old Dell Vostro 1500, running Windows XP with the Power 3 fuel injection software on it. So this thing's starting up. I've got it plugged into the USB port. You know, fuel pump running. We might have to bump the charger up a tad to make sure this thing doesn't die. Fast charge, 30 amps. That's enough amps. If we can talk to this thing, we might have luck getting fuel to it, and then hopefully the injectors will fire. All right, the USB to serial adapter is working. I can see that in Device Manager. We cannot, however, talk to the power ejection, and I'm pretty sure what they did here is just animated scanning the COM ports. So it looks like it scans for COM ports 0 through 34 or something like that, and shows you each one. We do know this is COM 5. So it is not finding it. So let's check the power to the power ejection and see if it's got 12 volts. Maybe that's why it's not starting up, but honestly the fuel pump runs and then shuts off, which makes me think it is starting, commanding the fuel pump, and then giving up. So for some reason, it seems dead. And it would probably be easier to just change the units, but at least I'll get a voltmeter on there and see if we have power first. Well, here's the easy way to tell. This is the main power into it. Orange is the fuel pump output. And if I plug this thing back in, you can hear the fuel pump start. Maybe? Come on. I wonder what this is. Something with the ignition. Either way, when it starts up, we've got 50 PSI of fuel pressure. Plenty of fuel here. You can actually feel it coursing through this thing. And it just appears to be completely dead. I think the best thing we can do for this is just go ahead and swap them out. This has always seemed like a dud. So let's change out the units, see if the other one will talk to the computer as we would expect, and it should fire right up if that works. All right, everything is switched over. You can see that is the better one. It has a way better sticker and it says with spark control, and the other one didn't. I think it should talk to the laptop now. So everything's plugged in, the power and the serial cable. There we go. Please work. Ah, yes! Look at that. Immediately, pulling calibration file from ECU. Yes! I cannot say yes enough. Now, the one thing I haven't hooked up is the water temperature sensor on the front. It's got dual, has a mechanical gauge and an electronic one. The power ejection does need the electronic one. You can see I'm dying in here today. It is crazy hot, 100-degree day, and we're not even remotely into summer. I gotta figure that out. So I think I'm gonna have to make a new connector for that if it doesn't plug in, which I don't think it does, but we're gonna find out, and check for fuel leaks. I need to check for fuel leaks, and then we're gonna put some fresh gas in this thing, and hopefully it starts up. This is a big win. Nothing like having 2 complete fuel injection setups. Hard to beat that. So here I was checking for gas leaks, looking around all the fittings up here, and then I was like, there's a puddle under the truck. A big puddle, because it's leaking out of the bottom of the pump, and onto the suspension, and then back to the back. So it is leaking like crazy right there where it's double clamped. I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with that. Honestly, it needs a proper fitting. That's what's going on with that. The entire fuel injection system is swapped over, put back together. I've got it all bolted down. Everything's connected now. The first thing we have to do is test this out. Obviously, I want to see if it runs. And the second thing we need to do is fix that fuel leak out back. I mean, technically it's the first thing, but I mean, you guys understand that you're always going to start the vehicle first, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's get to it. Power on. Should reconnect. Reconnected. Start button. All right, I don't need wipers. I wish those weren't on. Steering? Oh, it's like butter. Uh-oh. It really likes to keep running after it gets all power cut. That's kind of interesting. And the next thing that's interesting is how on earth do the wipers shut off? It looks like the knob here is just messed up. Water temp was climbing, everything's working. Everything's back together now. The air cleaner's on, all the wiring is buttoned up, put where it needs to be. The first thing we need to do is crawl up here and close the hood. Good thing it has built-in stairs, you know? Whoop! All right, there we go. How does it look? I think it looks awesome, all put back together. Now, we just need somebody to charge these nitrogen shocks. So shoot me an email if you can help me out with that. It's the channel name at Gmail. If you're in Wichita or Derby or anything like that, please let me know. I could really use your help airing up these shocks. I can extend them all the way. We can just use the forklift to pick up the whole side of the truck, front and back. Go. It is so fast idling in reverse. I'm actually a little mind blown by how fast this thing is. First is a little close to the steering wheel. A little close. I will say the brakes and everything else are amazing. Yeah! What a beast! It sure is bouncing all over the road. Come on, turn signals. I don't think they work. All right, let's see how it feels with a little speed. I'm pretty sure the turn signals don't work. Second gear. This seems like fifth gear because we are flying and it's only idler. It sure is bouncy. That might be because of the no nitrogen in the shocks at all. All right, here's... Nope, that was a higher gear. Somebody give me a gear that's not fifth. Woo! Temp's coming up. I guess this is the premium Jeep experience. No doors, no roof. Exactly what you're supposed to have in a Jeep. I also love that it'll crawl up anything at idle. And the brakes work very well. The steering on this thing just absolutely rocks. Here we go, straight up. Wow. Off curb. I'll tell you what, the one downside to the rock bouncer is all of the heat coming off the engine. The fan's pulling it through the radiator and pushing the air across the headers, and it comes straight through here and onto your knees. So your legs are burning while you're driving it. But hey, it's still awesome. I can't hate that at all. I mean, sure, it's hot, but I guess you wear shorts when you take this thing out. That's the required equipment to go rock bouncing with this thing. Obviously, it's going to need a windshield. It is broken, and probably because the hood came up and hit it or something like that. Luckily, these windshields are about $99. and we can get Ryan in here to replace that. Nothing flat. So next up, it's time to clean this thing up, and there's a few more little things we have to knock out. Obviously that small fuel leak, it needs a fitting. It's on there, it's literally a inline shoved onto a threaded coupler, which doesn't work. So we need to get that out of there and get a barbed fitting on there. And it'd be cool to find the winch remote. And we gotta air up these nitrogen shocks, and we'll be ready to go bounce on some rocks. So the whole reason I did this is because Weston hit me up and said, let's go off-roading. So I figured, here's the off-road machine, let's take this. The fuel puddle there got pretty big, and if you guys take a look in here, you'll see what I'm talking about with that fitting that's leaking. So it's a threaded coupler that's literally shoved in and double clamped on some hose, so we'll have to cut the hose, probably even replace that entire section there to that fuel filter, and then we should be good to go. Oh, same thing up top. Oh, it's a replacement pump. That's a get you home pump. That's what that is. It sure gets you home though. It definitely does its job. And on the old regulator, we were seeing 50 PSI. This one, I think we're seeing 30, which means that regulator probably needs adjusted a little bit, but it is just a 383. It probably runs just fine on 38 PSI. I bet it changes the tune a little bit. Smells a little rich. You can see the exhaust pipes have already been black. It's probably always been rich. But yeah, we're getting close to rock bouncing again. Super awesome build, and I think it'll do very well out on the trails wherever we're going. I don't actually know where we're going. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Everyone enjoys off-road stuff. What am I talking about? And it should be much crazier once it's way up in the air. Don't forget to head on over to shop, watchgrgo.com for cool shirts, not like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And I will talk to you next time. We thought this had a 4-speed in it, but I really do think it's got a 5-speed. It seemed like I was finding 5th gear out there. Also, that leak seemed to clear up because it was dripping a ton of fuel out of that fitting, and it does seem like it stopped. You could see it on all the suspension previously. So I guess we'll see how big this puddle is in the morning.